Welcome or welcome back to my channel. I'm Hannah Blackwell, and today I'm going to be sharing with you the fantasy romance books that you have to read by the end of this year. These are all books that are recent reads of mine, or books that I've read probably in the last 6 months that I really feel like y'all need to read. If you have not read these already, pick these up. I'm just excited to get into these because I could probably rave about these books forever. If you haven't already subscribed, I would love for you to do so. Don't forget to click the like button, comment down below, and let me know if you agree, but I'm not gonna hear it. I'm not gonna hear it if you disagree. These books are amazing. Also, comment down below any recommendations that you have for me. I'd love to hear all of your recommendations. If you want to follow me on social media, all that's linked down below in the description, including my Goodreads, Instagram, TikTok, the link to my Etsy shop, and the link to my Patreon. Okay, let's go ahead and start out with one of my more recent reads, and that is Between Wrath and Mercy by Jessa Weisskopf. This is a very different setup for a fantasy romance because this is actually about the mother of a teenage girl. She's plus size, I believe, and like I said, she's older, she's a mom, and this is about her. She has married, but she did have this flame when she was a lot younger. Her daughter is destined to greatness, but she knows there are going to be these people that are going to be after her, so she's been in hiding basically all of her child's life, and one day her daughter is taken, and she has to turn to her ex-flame, who is a prince, to help her. This is a second chance romance. Yes, she is married, but there's not any cheating in here. This one's really good. I love the cover. And like I said, I really like the unique take on a fantasy romance. I loved following an older heroine. I thought that the banter and relationships in this book were so freaking good. The way that Jess Weisskopf kind of caught you up on these characters was really interesting because I think it's really hard to write a book where all of the characters already know each other. That's really hard to do and still create that character development without the reader feeling like they're behind on the situation, because you have these people who our main character who has been friends with since she was a little girl, and they haven't talked in a long time, and then her ex-boyfriend or ex-flame or whatever, what have you, and they have their old history and everything like that, and you're just kind of like having to be caught up, but she's done it in a way that it doesn't feel like you're being caught up. It just feels like very natural character development, very natural world building, and really interesting. I really enjoyed it. Definitely recommend the audiobook. I thought the audiobook was done very well, and this book was just so good. I gave this 5 stars, obviously, otherwise I wouldn't be recommending it for this video. And I just, you have to read it if you haven't. You just have to. I cannot wait to pick up the second book. This is gonna be a trilogy, and I can't wait to pick up the sequel. It ends on a cliffhanger, this one does. Just know that going in, and I've been dying to pick up book 2. Okay, the next book is another recent 5-star read of mine, and that is To Bleed a Crystal Bloom. Sorry, this cover's a little bit shiny, but this is by Sarah Parker. I adored this book. It's a bit darker of a fantasy romance. We have a very toxic relationship. The hero in this, not the perfect hero. There's something very morally gray about him. The world in this is a little bit darker. When I first read this book, it reminded me of Game of Thrones a lot. Especially it reminded me of Dragonstone in the Game of Thrones shows. It had that cold, salty air kind of feel. This castle's on the seaside. The story is a Rapunzel retelling. Our heroine is staying at this castle. She was saved as a little girl. Now she's just living there, and she has these boundaries. Like, she won't go far. She's very closed off. She's kind of locked herself up. The head of the keep, or the king or the prince, I'm not really sure what kind of lord he is, but he is taking care of her, but he hasn't really taken on a fatherly role. He's just there, and other people have been raising her and taking care of her whole life. But they have this really weird, toxic romance going on. I don't know how to describe it, and I don't know where this book is going to go. I don't even know if he's even the hero. If he is, some things are going to have to change, that's for sure. But I will tell you, I'm addicted to the story, and I'm addicted to the world. I'm addicted to the characters. Orlaith is the main character, and I love her so flipping much. There's just something so interesting about her. She is both naive, and she's kind of been broken from a young age. She's dealt with some serious trauma. And she also is dealing with that trauma in not the healthiest way. Trigger warnings for drug abuse, trigger warnings for addiction. There's just a lot of trigger warnings. Check out the trigger warnings for this one. But it's definitely a very dark fantasy romance that I adored. I highly recommend if you're interested in something that I think this is perfect for this time of year when it's darker and kind of like cold outside. It gives you those dark fantasy atmospheric vibes. This one is perfect for that. The next book I want to talk about is That Time I Got Drunk and Yeeted a Love Potion at a Werewolf. This is the second book in the series by Kimberly Lemming that is like a cozy fantasy series that I adore. It's set very inspired by the American Bayou, but like classic fantasy vibes at the same time. And our heroine is at the bar one night, drinking some mead or whatnot, and somehow throws a love potion at a werewolf. It lands on him. He sees her and is immediately infatuated. This is their love story, and it is amazing. It is spicy. It is funny. It is cute. It is heartwarming. It's just such a fun ride. If you need a pick-me-up, if you need something to just make you feel happy and good about life, pick this one up. Plus, the spice is really good. The spice is really, really good in this one. I will say Kimberly Lemming is quickly becoming one of my favorite authors. I love everything she writes. It's just the best. It's cozy. Yeah, the stakes are a little bit higher, but I feel like this is like cozy fantasy romance. And it's just done perfectly. I love her sense of humor. I love how she just makes me smile when I read her books. Okay, the next one is an alien romance technically, but it feels like a fantasy romance, so I'm going to talk about it. That's Captive of the Horde King by Zoe Draven. This is Dothraki fan fiction, yet another Game of Thrones feeling, but we're talking about the Dothraki on like the other continent, actually like an alien planet. And it's called Dakar. And there are these Horde Kings on Dakar. And there's like a main king, but then there's these 6 Horde Kings that are kind of like his lords or governors or whatnot. And they are in charge of these 6 different hordes that travel around and hunt and basically watch over the land and make sure everything's done right. And then there are these settlers from Earth on the planet as well. And they have these settlements, and in these settlements, they're not doing well. They are not getting enough food. Just, it's not going well. Earth is not taking care of these people, and they're starving. And the Dakari don't really know this, but basically something happens, and in each book, a heroine is taken by a warlord or a Dakari, like Horde King or whatnot, and taken, and it's their love story. And this first one, it was her brother, the heroine's brother, basically does a no-no, and he burns some land, and that's a big no-no on Dakar. And so the Horde King comes, and the heroine sacrifices herself in place of her brother, and the Horde King decides to marry her. And it's their love story. Something about the way Zoe Draven writes love stories, and I have to say, that is like the #1 aspect in this book is the emotional romance. And I felt like the romance and the love story itself was so epic. And it was the same way in book 2. Like the emotional love story, the romance in this is so good. And yeah, there's higher stakes. There is political ramifications. There is trauma. There's a lot of other things going on. And yes, it is an alien romance. And yes, the hero is not quite human. Like they have tails. The Dakari have tails. But it still feels just like the most beautiful, beautiful romance, where the romance is the forefront. That's at the forefront, and everything else is secondary, but you still get to enjoy that extra adventure and intrigue and interest of having a fantasy romance or an alien romance, but the romance is still just #1, and Zoe Draven she does an amazing job with it. And yeah, I think the closest I've come to a romance writer like Zoe Draven, I would say like she's on par with Lisa Kleypas in terms of swoony romances, even though they're completely different vibes, completely different genres, historical romance, alien romance, but the swoon factor and epicness of the romance story itself, they're both like on par with each other. Zoe Draven I can't wait to read more from her. Okay, so next I have Curses and Cocktails by S.L. Rowland. The sequel to this book just came out. I haven't read it yet, but I can't wait for it. This is a queer, cozy fantasy with a romance I would say it's like equally romance, equally cozy fantasy, but I thought the romance was really cute and a really important aspect of the story, so that's why I'm including it in this list. This is about our hero who has been fighting in this war for a very long time. He's an elf and he's got like blood mage magic. Can't remember what they call it in here, but he's basically a blood mage and he is not doing well. His body is kind of like falling apart. He has a lot of pain when he performs magic, and he decides to go down south because he's heard that that might help his body heal. And it might be good for his body. He might be in less pain down south. He has brought with him his father's book of cocktails. This is the only thing he's got left of his father, and he's really interested in it. And he wants to try these different cocktails out. And he meets a bartender who can try out some of these cocktails and also introduces him to some newer cocktails as well. And they form a bond and a friendship first and a romance later. And they open up a bar together, and it's just so flipping cute. There's the cutest animal companion in here. Actually, there's two, and that's all I'm going to say. And the romance is adorable. The cozy vibes are impeccable. I have to say, I found this to be even cozier than Legends and Lattes, though S.L. Rowland is very open about the fact that they were very inspired by Legends and Lattes when they wrote this. So it has major Legends and Lattes vibes. I just really, really enjoyed it. I loved it. I thought it was so cute. I can't wait to read more from this author. Yet another really cozy one, but unlike Kimberly Lemming, the cozy fantasy romance in here, like the fantasy romance is not spicy. So there's really like no spice in this. There's like no spice in this. But the romance is really sweet. So if you're looking for a sweet romance with low spice that's going to give you all of the cozy vibes this season, please check this out. You have to read this before the end of the year, and I think it's the perfect time of year to read it anyway. And the last one is another recent read of mine that is perfect for this season too, but you have to read it before the end of the year. It is cozy, it is sweet, there's found family. It's basically got everything you could want, and that is The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches by Sangu Mandana. I'm obsessed with this book. This is one of my favorite books of the year, possibly my favorite book of the year, to be honest. This book made me cry. It was so sweet, so cozy. It just had all of the tropes that I love. A very grumpy hero, curmudgeon librarian hero. Basically, these two are healing from the trauma of their childhood, and they're helping each other heal, and it's really sweet. It was very almost healing for me to read it and watch their healing process. And I thought that was so amazing. Like, I just got goosebumps even just thinking about it. I just loved it so, so much. So this is about our heroine. She has this YouTube channel where she shows off how to be a witch, but the truth is she's actually a witch. She's not just like a witch talk, creator or whatnot. She's actually a witch. She's just doing this because she cannot get any kind of community because witches cannot be together. Apparently, if too many witches are together for too long, the power is too great and can cause catastrophe. So she has to stay away from other witches, but she gets emailed one day from Nowhere House, and they tell her that they need a teacher and for her to come out and teach these girls how to be a witch. And it's so flipping cute. These girls are so sweet. There's these 3 little witches, and I love them. I love them so much. And then, like I said, the curmudgeon librarian is the hero in the story, and their relationship and their healing journey together, and the found family aspects. I want to reread it already. This book will just feel like a warm hug, and not even just like a warm hug, but a warm hug with like blankets and soft fur and like everything you could want. I loved it so much. I just loved it. Like I said, this one is also not spicy, but it is just unbelievably sweet. I think it might have a little bit of spice in it. I can't remember, but it's definitely not like super spicy or anything like that. So check this one out. Probably my favorite book of the year. So there you have it. There are some fantasy romance books that you need to read before the end of the year. I hope you like this video. Let me know down in the comments if you agree, which you better, and let me know any recommendations that you have for me of books that you think I need to read before the end of the year. All of my social media is linked down below in the description, including my Goodreads, Instagram, my TikTok, the link to my Etsy shop, and the link to my Patreon. Don't forget to give me a like and a subscribe if you haven't already subscribed. Until next time, fellow readers, keep reading and living your best life.
Gravel road, I've been asked to slow down.